folks. Welcome to another edition of Infidelity Recovery. As you know, this is a part of our 5-day-a-week broadcast for the Couples Academy Daily Show. My name is Hasani Pettiford. I am the co-founder of Couples Academy, and I'm glad to be with you here tonight. If this is your first time tuning in, I just want to let you know a little bit about our organization and what we do. For the last 17 years, we've been working with couples who have been impacted by a crisis in their relationship. And over the years, based upon the fact that so many couples have been impacted by infidelity, I made a decision to kind of shift gears and become an infidelity recovery specialist so I could really deal with specific issues that will help couples restore. I found that generally speaking, when we go to therapists and counselors and coaches who may not specialize in affairs, they do a great job of helping that couple in terms of general principles regarding their relationship, but overcoming the pain of the affair, that's a very unique gift and skill set. And so because that is what we've been dealing with, I decided to really venture off and to become a specialist in that particular area. And so every single Monday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we dedicate 30 minutes to really exploring many of the nuances, the challenges, the idiosyncrasies that are associated with an affair. Because guess what? According to statistics, only 17% of divorces have anything to do with an affair. So what that tells me is that even when affairs take place, the majority of couples do not divorce. For a number of different reasons, they stay together. But unfortunately, so many people are miserable in their marriage. And so they're looking for restoration. They're looking for hope. They're looking for relational and personal fulfillment. And that is what we're committed to. So tonight, what we want to do is talk about a topic that really has been weighing heavy on my heart simply because I've had so many individuals within the last few weeks really reach out to me through phone calls and emails and even in my sessions wanting to know, and this is tonight's topic, how to enter into sexual intimacy after an affair. It's a very difficult process, but it's something that is doable if you have the right knowledge and skill base and the patience of a partner to kind of work with you as you transition through this recovery process. But listen, before we get started, I just want to make a quick announcement. As you know, we're going to be traveling around the country. We've just come back from London. We're on our way to London again, then off to, Johannesburg. We're going to St. Kitts. We're going to Florida, just traveling around, doing what we do best, having retreats and conferences to really help couples. So I want to share with you a retreat we're doing in the next couple of months. If you're interested and you love to travel, join us. Take a look at this. I'll be right back.
Redeemed Promotions in association with Couples Academy presents To Have and To Hold Marriage and Singles Retreat at the St. Kitts Marriott Resort on July 21st to 23rd of 2017. First 50 couples to register stands a chance of winning 2 7-day Caribbean cruise on Caribbean Cruise Line. The first 25 singles to register stands a chance to win staycations in and out of St. Kitts and Nevis. Couples packages are 1,500 EC, all-inclusive of 3 nights at the Marriott Hotel, passes to the seminar sessions, and 2 boat ride passes on Prince Devonte. Single packages fee 1,300 EC, all-inclusive, 3 nights at the Marriott Hotel, passes for seminar sessions, 1 boat ride pass. Hosted by Mr. and Mrs. Hasani and Daniel Pettiford of Couples Academy out of the USA and Mr. and Mrs. Redeem of Redeemed Promotions. Call 869-667-7381. Register now.
Now, doesn't that look fun and exciting? Listen, we want you to join us. Danielle and I are going to be traveling to St. Kitts for a little bit of R&R and working with couples to help them really take their relationship to a next level. So if you want to be there, go right now to the website, register. It is an amazing price. You're going to get an amazing experience because when we come together and do what we do best, all of us win in that process. Listen, before we get started, I want you to share this. There may be somebody right now who's listening that is going through pain in their relationship, but you know someone else who's going through a similar experience. Share this to your page. We want you to click notifications when our show goes live so you can continue to tune in on a daily basis to get a little bit of information that you need to really help you restore. Now, listen, as we transition into the topic, I came across a video that went viral. There was over 7 million views. And what it was an opportunity for a boyfriend and a girlfriend to have honest dialogue about an affair. And she was able to ask her boyfriend certain questions. And it's so interesting because a lot of times you go to counseling or you go to certain people and they will tell you don't talk about the details of the affair. It's just going to set you back. But what we've discovered is that even though the truth hurts, it also heals. Now, we're dealing with a couple who's experienced an affair prior to marriage. And for me, the rules of the engagement are somewhat different because once you're married, there's so many other factors to consider. But I want you to kind of hear this dialogue. This is a 6-minute video, but I tell you, it's very, very powerful. And it gives you an idea of what we do when we work with couples and we take them through the disclosure process. Take a look.
What did you do?
I did everything.
Like what?
I had sex with other girls. I did everything. We met in school, we met in college, we met in class, and you really didn't like me.
No, I didn't like you at first.
A couple years later, we moved into like the same apartment complex, and the first day we both moved there, we like met on the elevator again. It was like a reunion.
And then you offered to bring my groceries upstairs.
And yeah, we spent a lot of time together.
Like every day.
I would say that you were my best friend.
Yeah. Me too. I would go through his phone and I would like see text messages or like pictures of girls, and then I would ask him about it. And sometimes he would lie and just say like, oh, that's not true, you don't know what you're talking about. And he said like, oh, I'll stop, but then he didn't. One time I went to his room and he had someone else in his room and he told me to leave. And I went back to my room and I just cried like the whole night. And then I think I went like a little while without talking to you. And then you said something like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna do it again.
There was kind of a point where things weren't the same.
What do you mean?
Just like you would always go through my phone or my computer.
Yeah, I didn't trust you.
If you would go to that measure to find whatever, why wouldn't you just leave?
I don't know, I think I was like stupid. How many times did you cheat on me?
I don't know.
If you had to say.
I wasn't counting. It had more to do with me just not being able to commit.
Why not?
Because at the time, I didn't want to. I think just sometimes we're not on the same page.
Yeah, I think that's true.
there's nothing that you could have done differently that I think would have prevented it. I think that you did everything that you needed to do to be a good girlfriend, and I was lucky to have someone like you.
I don't think you're a bad guy because he cheated. I forgave you.
Why?
Because you're my best friend. But it was hard.
I think we're like in the first stage of moving on.
Yeah.
I think we both kind of accepted for the first time that it's really over.
I couldn't, like, today I couldn't see, like, my life without you. But I don't know. I feel like you hurt me a lot, so I feel like you abandoned me.
I apologize for hurting you, and I hope in the future we can remain good friends, and I get a chance to see you grow into the woman that you're becoming.
Now, the first time I watched this messed me up. This tore me up. And the reason why is because this is something that I experience on a daily basis when working with couples. And when we get to the point where we enter into the disclosure phase and we're now engaging in conversations where we're dealing with the details of the affair, just to see the pain of the hurt partner as well as the unfaithful partner. And I always say that both individuals are going through their own type of pain. It's a different pain. And I don't think that either partner should be in competition for who's in more pain. It's different types of pain. And so the humiliation, the shame, the guilt of the unfaithful partner, and the rejection, the abandonment, the impact it has on a person's self-esteem if you're dealing with the hurt partner. Now you take this scenario, now put it in the confines of marriage, where it's not as easy to walk away. In a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, you can chalk it up as, you know what, bad experience, I've learned my lesson, I'm moving on. But when you're married now and you have finances and you have children and you have years of experiences together, you know, what I find to be so interesting is that when it comes to unfaithfulness, it's not always the result of a bad relationship. We're going to talk about this in another segment, but what is it about happy spouses and people who are in happy marriages where everything is going well? There's that in-love feeling that's there, but someone still travels down the path of betrayal. What about those scenarios? So in that type of scenario, it feels like you're being sideswiped. And so the emotional intensity in that disclosure phase is truly intense. Now, here's the deal. There are 6 stages of recovery. One of the stages of recovery is what we would call developing the intimacy, the sexual intimacy in your relationship after the aftermath of an affair. That can be a very challenging experience because usually the impact that betrayal has on a marriage in terms of a couple's sex life, there are 2 extremes that we typically experience. Either A, the hurt partner, the hurt spouse, enters into what we call super sex mode. What does that mean? What happens is they are tormented by the thought of what their spouse did with another person. And so Super sex mode is motivated by a comparison between that affair partner and you, the hurt partner. And so now your imagination is running and you're trying to figure out what in the world the experience was like, what they had together. And you're trying to recreate that same experience, that same passion, that same lustful, desiring, erotic, sensual experience in your own marriage, because that's ultimately what your partner, or we believe our partner, had with that affair partner. So this comparison can drive us crazy, because the reality is we don't know what that experience was like. But because we want to overcompensate, or because we want to balance the scales, if you will, or have in the marriage what our partner had in the affair, we go into super sex mode. So it's about sex every day, all day. So the intensity of the experience increases. The amount of the sex sessions, if you will, increases. The creativity, the variety, the hot passion, doing all types of things that normally you would not do. You begin to enter into that mode. And while, yes, you're becoming more passionate in your relationship, it is grounded and founded in something that is not healthy at all. So it has a long-term negative impact when you're doing it based upon a comparison. And now there's this drive and there's this intensity in you to have to perform a particular way to keep our partner from ever being tempted to leave the confines of the marriage. That doesn't necessarily come from a healthy place. I mean, it's great to have wonderful, passionate sex, but when it comes from that motivation, it can wind up being counterproductive. The other extreme that we typically experience when working with couples is a repulsion. So in essence, the hurt partner is now repulsed by the idea of even engaging in sex with their spouse. Why? Because I can't get out of my mind what he did or what she did, and it's a total turnoff. And so what happens is a person shuts down completely. And we see this manifest in both men and women. Now, the nature of the sexuality of a man is different than the sexuality of a woman. I say it all the time. If a wife touches her husband, after a few seconds to a few moments, if it's the right type of touch, that sensation travels to his genital area and he's ready to go. But if a husband touches a wife in that same type of way, oftentimes that sensation travels all the way up to her emotional headquarters. And now she's thinking, well, how does he treat me? And, does he respect me? And what happened last week? And she goes through all of these emotions and all of these thoughts. And if she gets a red flag, then it shuts down. There's no desire. But if he treated her well, if things are going right in the relationship, then you get a green light. And then all of a sudden, that same stimulation goes down to those areas of her body and she's ready to go. So it's a different process. And so oftentimes, if the wife is the hurt partner, because she is so flooded with emotions and dealing with the pain and the abandonment and the rejection and the low self-esteem and the low self-worth, likewise men too, because I've seen this in men as well, it really prevents someone from even wanting to engage. And so after you've gone through the season of recovery and you get to the point where now it's time to come together, how do you do it? Because now it's awkward, and now it's uncomfortable, and now I can't get these thoughts out of my mind. And every time I engage with you, it becomes an emotional trigger, because in my mind, I'm thinking about this other person. There's so many stories that I can tell you. Some my clients have given me permission to tell, and others I haven't. But just one in particular, I remember a couple telling me how, the wife comes out of the shower one day, and, normal process of getting dressed, and talks to her husband and begins to ask her husband, do you like my body? Something as simple as that. And of course, he responds and says, yes, I do. But in her mind, he's thinking about the other woman's body and how does she compare to this person's physique, and does she measure up? And so these are all of the challenges that we experience. And so that's why we say an affair is never worth it. A moment of pleasure can bring a lifetime of pain if you do not have the proper recovery process. So I kind of want to give you some ideas of what you can do if you are the unfaithful partner and you really want to restore the level of intimacy in your relationship, sexual intimacy. I want to share with you some of the things that you can begin to do. Now, Danielle and I wrote a book some time ago entitled 7 Days of Extraordinary Sex, Discover the Keys to a Successful Marriage. And in here, we talk about many things, but I want to focus on these 4 areas right here. Number one, we have emotional foreplay. Then we have AAA service, honoring your spouse, and enjoy gourmet sex. So let's just talk about emotional foreplay, for instance. Now, understand the key to your sexual intimacy is not necessarily how you show up inside the bedroom, but in fact how you show up outside the bedroom. So it's not about what you're physically doing to cause physical stimulation, which is what we will call foreplay, but the emotional foreplay is how you show up as a lover outside the bedroom. Emotional foreplay begins at the beginning of the day. It starts at the beginning of the week. It represents the atmosphere and the climate of your relationship. And so emotional foreplay is your ability to speak into a person's life, to edify, to encourage, to really create a romantic, safe environment where your spouse feels at home. And so emotional foreplay is critical. So once again, it's not about positions and techniques and stamina, even though those things are important. But when you're trying to engage in sexual intimacy, understand what that word means. It means intimacy, right? So if we take sex out of the equation, because you can have sex with a prostitute, you can have sex with a stranger, you can have sex with anyone and get a physical stimulation, but is there an emotional connection? Is there intimacy with that particular person? And unfortunately, after an affair, many marriages are void of the intimacy that allows somebody to feel safe and secure in that experience. So keep in mind, it is an emotional connection. Now, just as you have sexual intimacy, keep in mind that you also have intellectual intimacy. You have emotional intimacy. You have spiritual intimacy. Now, spirituality void of intimacy becomes religious, okay? Intellectual intimacy or intellectual communication void of intimacy is just that. It's just communication. There's no connection there. So if there's no intimacy in the sexual experience, it's just sex. And so what we really want to focus on is how to begin to be intimate in our exchanges with one another. All right, let's go to the next one. Then we have what is called AAA service. AAA service. Now, as you see, number one, affirmation. Number two, attention. And number three, affection. Now, if you have a car, if you have a vehicle, many of you, like myself, have AAA service. And AAA service is for what? Roadside assistance. So when you enter into crisis, you have a phone call you can make, and all of a sudden you have all of this assistance that will come out on the road and assist you. They may give you a lift, they may change your tire, they may do all types of things. There's many perks and benefits that come along with it. But in terms of how you recover from the crisis of an affair, you also need to enter into what we call AAA service. And that is when you provide bedside assistance. Once again, not just how you show up in the bedroom, but everything else that you do to show up to bring a sense of completion, a sense of security and wholeness in that relationship. So we have affirmation. Once again, words of affirmation, even according to the book of the 5 love languages. It is a love language. It is the ability to speak life into someone, to edify them, to encourage them, to build up their self-esteem. Because I'm going to tell you, a woman's femininity and her self-esteem and her self-worth is shattered after an affair. Likewise, many men feel emasculated. They feel as if they are less of a man. And so that type of impact impacts not only the relationship, but it impacts who they are and how they show up in everyday life. So your priority should be on building them back up. As the unfaithful partner, your role is to be a rebuilder of the relationship and a rebuilder of your spouse. And when you can begin to do that and edify them and encourage them, all of a sudden they feel like they are in a safer place. Then we have affection. Listen, affection means different things to different people. Dr. Willard Harley, in his book, His Needs, Her Needs, talks about the emotional needs of men and women. One of those 10 emotional needs is affection. Affection is in the form of physical touch, not sexual touch, physical touch. Being able to just embrace your partner. Because here's the deal. Communication is key. If you really want to restore your relationship after an affair, you've got to be able to communicate. But you've got to understand, and you've heard me say this before, communication has 3 components. Component number 1 is what we call your words. That is 7% of your communication. Number 2, your tonality. That is 23% of your communication. And number three, your facial expressions, your body language, your gestures. That is 70% of your communication. So oftentimes your body language delivers a very different message than your words or your tone. And so when a word is not appropriate, or when you don't know a word to think of to bring relief, sometimes a touch, sometimes an embrace, sometimes just laying up with one another and hugging one another and rubbing your hand through your wife's hair or your husband's hair. Just the power of touch has a way of healing. Let me tell you something. There was a tremendous study done on babies, and it is a fact that babies require touch. If a baby goes without touch for too long, in some severe cases, they can even die. So if touch is important for an infant, how much more important is it for an individual who's in a loving, monogamous relationship, right? So touch is vitally important. I don't want you to minimize that. I don't want you to underestimate that. It is everything. So when you do not have the words, know how to give touch. All right, so we dealt with affirmation, we dealt with affection, and then number three, it is attention. Attention is critically important. Let me explain the importance of this. You know, of all the couples that I work with, you know what the biggest issue that couples have a problem overcoming? It's not even the affair, because they can get over that. It's not the crisis. It's not financial issues. It's not death that may take place in the family and how it shakes the very foundation of that household. What we have found is that couples struggle most with quality time, investing time in their partner, because we're so caught up in the busyness of life. I say this all the time. When you were in your relationship prior to I do, in the dating season, it was just you and your partner. You gave each other all the time, all the attention, all the affection. And as soon as you said I do, you gave up your relationship for the sake of the marriage. The marriage representing the duties, the responsibilities, the obligations, the tasks, raising children, managing finances, the duties and responsibilities of maintaining a home. And with all of these responsibilities, your relationship falls at the very bottom of the list of priorities. And so we're not taking the time to engage, to give each other full attention. Now, if I'm not paying attention to you, someone feels abandoned. Someone feels neglected. So when you're in the phase of restoring the intimacy in the relationship, listen, you need to give each other time. So if that means putting some hobbies aside, if that means, not working late and coming home immediately after work and spending time with your spouse, if that means stepping down from some voluntary position, some ministry, some board, whatever it takes to clear the space and to give your spouse what they need in that season. I call it a full court press. Now, if you know anything about basketball, whenever the opposing team has the ball from the checkout, there's a full court press that you apply because your defense, your game has to be on. So you don't wait for them to come to the other side of the court. You go to the other side of the court and give them a full court press. Likewise, in the realm of your relationship, you need to apply a full court press. And that means spending quality time. Quality time is not the same thing as physical proximity. So if my wife and I are together and she's on her computer, I'm on my phone, our attentions are split, that's not quality time. Quality time is when the both of us are engaged in something together, or we're engaged in one another. And when you begin to do that, now you're giving your partner what they need. Triple A service. I hope that makes sense. Now, let's go to the very next thing. On our list in the book, 7 Days of Extraordinary Sex. And if you don't have the book, I encourage you to go to couplesacademy.org. You can purchase your book today and get it downloaded immediately. Number 3, honor your spouse. I can't tell you how critically important that is. I don't think we do a great job of honoring each other, of valuing each other. I think oftentimes we just take each other for granted. And I think that becomes really the blow that rocks a lot of households. We talk about how we go from being soulmates to role mates to roommates. It represents emotional disconnect over the course of time. So while we gave each other a whole lot of attention and passion and care and sexual fulfillment in the early stages of the relationship, monogamy transitions oftentimes into monotony. And then we begin to take our spouse for granted, and we don't honor them. We don't honor their opinions. We don't honor their thoughts. We don't honor them as spouses, and we wind up taking them for granted. And what happens is, they no longer feel like they're the number one thing in our lives. I struggle with that. Many years into I would say many years, the beginning portion of our relationship, I was guilty of not giving my wife enough time and attention. She felt completely neglected. I was on the road. I was traveling. She felt like a single parent mother in the confines of our own home. Here I am traveling, working, even when I'm home, even though I'm physically there, I'm not mentally there. I'm not fully engaged. I don't have full attention. She felt neglected. And oftentimes we do that. And when we do that, we're truly not honoring our spouses the way we need to. So I would encourage you to go to your Webster, go to a thesaurus, go to an encyclopedia, go to Wikipedia, Google honor. It's going to have a multitude of definitions. But whatever the definition is, apply it to your marriage and see how it fits. All right? Now, step number 4. We're almost there. Engage in gourmet sex. Now, in the book, we talk about the different sexual marital patterns that exist in a relationship. Some are good, some are bad. Now, without going through all of them, the one that I want to focus on is what we call gourmet sex. So how does that apply to restoring sexual intimacy in your relationship after an affair? Here's the deal. If you are in a lustful exchange with someone, and it was about passion, and it was about excitement and hot sex and things of that nature, you don't want to focus on that type of sex in your marriage. What you want to do is participate in gourmet sex. Have you ever been to a 5-star restaurant? Possibly 4. And the attention to detail was just amazing. The service was just awesome. They greeted you at the door. They escorted you to your table. They took the napkin and opened it up and laid it across your lap. You had an entire wait staff that paid attention to every detail. There was a 5-course meal. They were looking at you from a distance to see if the water reached a certain point in the glass. They would come back over it and pour it in. They would constantly ask you, how can I serve you? What can I do for you? There was a care. There was a compassion. You felt like the most important person in the restaurant. You felt like all of them have been designed to serve and wait on you. Now, take that concept and bring it into a sexual experience. No longer are we talking about selfish sex. I get mine, hopefully you get yours. This is sexuality, intimacy with intentionality. Now listen, it's important to know, and on this note, I want you to read through this list I put together. The purposes of sex and intimacy. Number 1, to heal. Number 2, to comfort. Sorry about that.
What did you do?
Wait a second.
I did everything.
Like what?
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. Technical difficulties on the set. But here we go. Obviously, that is not working. Sorry about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read the list to you. All right. Sorry about that. So number 1, to heal. Number 2, to comfort. Number 3, to reconcile after an argument. Number 4, to build self-esteem and a sense of masculinity or femininity. Number 5, to express love in a profound way when words cannot. Number 5, to connect on a deeper level. The next one, to relax. The next one, to please one's partner. And the last one, to feel sexual and attractive. These are the reasons and the purposes for sex. In gourmet sex, where you're including intimacy in the exchange, it's all about creating a safe, comfortable, loving environment where you're communicating your love and your desire and your commitment for your partner. Now, when you begin to make love in a caring way such as that, all of a sudden, it allows that hurt partner to feel more comfortable in the process. Now, outside of just sexual intimacy, it is important that you take the time as the unfaithful partner to engage in difficult conversations where you allow your partner to open up and to share what's on their heart. Oftentimes, we want to diminish what has been done. We don't want to acknowledge what has been done. We don't take the time to acknowledge the pain that we put our partner through. We just want them to race on into the future and to not deal with it, because every time we're forced to deal with it, we're forced to look at the mess and the disaster that we created. But and here's the deal. If a hurt partner feels like they can't talk to you, now they feel abandoned again. But guess what? They're going to find somebody to talk to. They're going to go to a friend. They're going to go to a minister. They're going to go anywhere, anyone who's willing to give them an ear. And unfortunately, that puts them in a vulnerable position that they don't need to be in. So it is your responsibility to provide an atmosphere of comfort for them to pour out. Sometimes they're going to pour out their pain. Sometimes they're going to pour out their love and their compassion. And they're going to need to have constant reminders of your commitment to the relationship, of your willingness to stick in there when things don't go easy. They want to know what that is, because if you aren't willing to show a level of commitment, once again, they don't feel safe. So how do you, as we close, how do you enter into sexual intimacy after an affair has occurred? You have to understand that it's a process. It's not something you can just snap your finger and be there. It's not a switch you can turn on and turn off. It is a gradual process that you enter into, and the way that the unfaithful partner shows up will either speed up that process, will put that process on hold, or delay that process out for a long period of time. All I know is over the years of working with countless couples who've been challenged with the sexual intimacy piece, when we walk them through in our weekly sessions or in our 3-day intensives, they're able to find breakthrough. They're able to find healing. And so I would just want to encourage you, if this is you, if you are in a relationship and you have experienced the pain of an affair, I want you to go to our website right now, and I want you to sign up to get your free, it says 60 minutes, it's really 30-minute discovery session. I want you to contact us at 678-200-8996, or simply go to our website at couplesacademy.org. I want you to text me tonight. I want you to go to the website and fill out the form tonight, because guess what? Healing can be on the other side of this segment. All you have to do is make the decision. Pick up the phone, go online, fill out the form. Listen, you've been looking for an answer. You've been looking for something more, and you just didn't know where to turn. And somebody shared this broadcast with you tonight. You stumbled across it just scrolling through Facebook. That was not by mistake. It was intentional. And guess what? Sometimes God positions us to be in the right place at the right time to help us get the healing that we need. And Couples Academy is designed to do just that. So I hope that tonight's session was helpful for you. You know, when I'm alone and I don't have Danielle by my side, it's hard for me to read your comments, so please forgive me. But I do read through them after our session. And listen, if you need help, reach out to us. If you have a question, every single Sunday night, we have Relationship Q&A, where we will address your question live and give you the answers that you need. So thank you guys. Love you guys. Share this. I need you to share this. We want this particular video to go viral so that we can help be agents of change in other people's lives. Good night, guys. Talk to you soon.